The Batwoman Season 2 mid-season finale is here, so we're not going to be getting any more new episodes until April 11th, but that's only a couple weeks, so it's not really a huge break, and we see that most of our other Arrowverse shows are also going on their mid-season break. Black Lightning, Superman and Lois, not sure when The Flash is going to do it, but other than that, everything else is on a break. And I honestly think that last week's episode would have worked better as a mid-season finale because that was kind of like a close to the whole Sophia Coriana storyline, and with the cliffhanger of Kane being alive, I feel like that would have been working better as a mid-season finale, and this would have been a good episode to open up on when they come back, but I don't know, it's really not that big of a deal. The episode was interesting. I wouldn't say it was a great episode. It was a good episode. It wasn't bad. So, anyway, let's talk about it. So this is Batwoman Season 2, Episode 9, and it's titled Rule Number 1. So we start off this episode seeing that they're having a funeral for Kate because now everybody thinks that she is dead. But then we flash over to a scene with Black Mask, who was introduced in this episode, and he is visiting Kane, and then we do get a cliffhanger with that at the end of the episode. We'll talk about that later. But Angelique plays a big role in this episode because we see that she returns to Ryan and she apologizes and everything, and Ryan, she wants to trust her, but at the same time she doesn't know if she can, so that was a big struggle for her in this episode. But then we get the main conflict of this episode starting up here because the False Face Society kills the GCPD commissioner, who at this time is not Commissioner Gordon, so I don't know what's going on with him in this universe, but this GCPD commissioner just got murdered, and then Sophie's sister, her name is Jordan, was protesting and doing graffiti and stuff for the police and witnessed this murder. So she plays a role in this episode as well. Not a huge one, but she's still there. And I do love how we got this quick scene here where Jordan actually suggests that Ryan and Sophie should be a thing, which I feel like is probably going to happen because, Sophie was supposed to be Kate's main love interest, but, maybe not, especially with how this episode ended with, spoiler alert if you haven't seen it, but you probably have if you're watching this episode, with how Angelique went back to jail. Now that Angelique is out of Ryan's life, maybe she'll end up with Sophie. I feel like that's most likely the route they're going to take here. But then Angelique, she really does want to change, and she wants to leave the False Face Society. But that is when she gets kidnapped by Black Mask. And Black Mask in this episode, I did a video on him the other day when we got our first look. The mask looked cool. It looked better in action than it did in that one still picture. And he was definitely creepy and scary. I think it looked a little weird how it had the sides cut out and stuff of the mask. But I thought it was really cool. He had some really cool motives here, and he was a pretty cool villain. And Batwoman ends up getting captured by Black Mask and almost gets her head sawed off, which we saw that demonstrated with one of the False Face Society goons, and that was disgusting. But then Sophie saves up and saves her, and luckily Black Mask escapes. Obviously not luckily for our heroes, but luckily because he doesn't die and we'll see him return. So I'm excited for that because he's a cool villain. So now the day is saved, and Angelique pleads guilty for this murder that she didn't even do. And this whole time I was super confused. Why is she doing this? What is happening here? Well, turns out Black Mask threatened her that she would kill Ryan if she, basically exposed him. So she basically is now going to jail to sacrifice herself for Ryan. Very similar to what Ryan did for Angelique. She went to jail instead of ratting out Angelique, and I think that was pretty cool. And I think this is the end of their relationship because it is a big gesture that really shows how much Angelique loves Ryan, and maybe we'll get some scenes of her visiting Angelique in jail or something, but I feel like that really is the end of their relationship. And again, I feel like they're gonna go forward more with Sophie and Ryan because that was hinted at in this episode, and probably for a reason. But other than that, not much happened in the episode. We did have a little bit with Alice here, where Alice, she is dealing with the death of Kate, and she's visited by basically like the ghost of young Kate, and it was some cool stuff. We didn't get much of it, but I liked what we got there. We also got a really quick scene with Julia at the end, where we see that now she is investigating Kate's death, and she calls this guy to get some information, and this guy is talking to her like they've talked before, and she doesn't remember any of it. And the way it was going, I was thinking it was going to be like, oh, somebody else called him first and pretended to be Julia, but no, apparently she did it and she forgot. So I don't really know what's going on there with this storyline, but clearly something is being set up, and again, I don't know what it is, but it's with Julia, and I love this character, but she's barely on the show, so I'm glad we're going to be getting to see more of her. But then the big cliffhanger of the episode is we see Black Mask going back to see Kane again. And this time he brings this lady, and we find out that this lady, she is called Enigma. That same person that in that flashback with Ocean and Alice, who Sophia said was the one that was going to wipe their memories. And then Enigma here in this scene says, time to say goodbye to Kane. So she's going to wipe Kate's memories, and they said something about her face being disfigured. We know a new actress has been cast, but it seems like maybe she's going to be getting a whole new identity, which is not something I expected, but I don't know. We'll see how it turns out. Again, not going to see till April 11th, but I this does get me excited for that. So yeah, this was the mid-season finale of Batwoman Season 2. Not really anything huge happened in this episode, but there was some cool setup that I am excited to see continue in the future. So guys, of course, let me know your thoughts on this episode in the comments below, your theories for the rest of Batwoman Season 2, and thanks so much for watching. Please drop a like if you enjoyed this video, and hit the subscribe button so I can keep up to date on everything that goes on in the DC life.